basically I kind of want to get into this idea about modality, modal notions. I really want to start getting into metaphysics of modality and possible worlds. I really want to start thinking about this stuff and kind of getting into it. There's a section in this book that is on modality and possible worlds called the necessary and the possible. This is Metaphysics. It's contemporary introduction by Michael J. Liu. And it really does have a lot of good stuff in it. It really has a good, it has lots of good thought in it, which is kind of comprises the little, the different things within the philosophical branch of metaphysics. So in this video I want to talk about the notions of modality that you will find in modal logic. I want to think about those. I want to think about what could possibly be a problem with those. And in metaphysics and logic, is it, or not, in metaphysics, is it fine to just presuppose that they're fine, or do we have to kind of think about them linguistically, metaphysically, epistemologically, and figure out whether they're actual good terms and notions to employ? And these modal notions are necessity and possibility. If something is necessary, if it has necessity, if it's necessary, then, for instance, let me find a notebook here. In modal logic, you see this box. This is the box which you will see next to terms of sentential logic. And modal logic involves this little box. And basically what it means when you see this little box next to the A, it means it is necessary that A. And basically what it means for A to be necessary, it means that it cannot be other than A. It is not possible that A be false. It cannot be other than A. If A is necessary, then it cannot be other than this. The other notion of modality is possibility, and that is denoted by this little diamond here. When you see the diamond next to A, it is meant in modal logic A is possible. And in systems of modal logic like T and S4, S5, S6, S7, and these various systems, especially when you think about Kripke and Clarence Irving Lewis, these people, those people are people who, have responded to the need for a logic of modal notions. Now, the need for that I'm going to come to here. First of all, in necessity and possibility, can we empirically, epistemically understand and know what it means for A to be possible or for A to be necessary. You know, for instance, if something is logically false, what logically false means is that it is not possible for the sentence to be true. So a logically false sentence would be, it is Tuesday and it is not Tuesday. It's not possible for it to be Tuesday and not Tuesday at the same time. On the other hand, if we had it is Tuesday or it is not Tuesday, that is a logically true sentence because either it is Tuesday or it is not Tuesday. So a logically false sentence would not be possible. And a logically true sentence would be what that means is it is not possible for that sentence to be false. A logically true sentence would be it is Tuesday or it is not Tuesday. We have the disjunction rather than the conjunction here, and we would have that. So if I think we can think about those things, and try to understand what it means for something to be possible and necessary. If something is logically indeterminate, it is neither logically true nor logically false. And it would pretty much be possible for a logically indeterminate sentence to be true. It's possible. And we have these little notions. So what is talked about in this book, if I can get to it, is the charge or the question that is given by empiricism. In modern philosophy, you have rationalism, which where you get Descartes, Leibniz, those metaphysicians about God, the soul, and the world. And then we have the empiricists, which say that the empirical reality should be the starting point, and we should understand things philosophically based on experience, how we perceive things, and understand them in that way. So with the empiricists, we get Hume, Locke, Berkeley, and those guys. So the empiricists, have charged to metaphysics that we can't really, we can't, just openly employ these modal notions, because it is difficult for us to epistemically know whether a sentence is possible, and to know when a sentence is, epistemically know when a sentence is possible. So these modal notions, according to them, are not always verifiable in our experience. We can't always verify if A is possible or if A is necessary. So, and Hume would be one of those who would say this. And one big issue that follows from that is, are these modal notions anything but verbal? Are they verbal notions? Thus, do they make distinctions metaphysically about the world that are non-linguistic? So, we have the issue that he's talked about in here about how it's possible that these are linguistic issues rather than epistemic issues. And then what is talked about here is what it means for a sentence to be extensional, what co-referential sentences are, or terms are, and, and the question about, how we can get around this linguistic problem, or, because if it's linguistic, or if it's within a linguistic framework, it may not be saying something about the world, and if it's merely verbal, then it might be a merely linguistic construction. So that's some technical stuff I don't really want to get into, because that linguistic perspective is not something I'm concerned with. What I do want to think about is the need for modal logics. So both an empiricist orientation in metaphysics and technical considerations about exceptionality resulted in certain skepticism about the use of notions of necessity, possibility, and contingency. To be sure, many philosophers continue to believe that serious metaphysics requires appeal to modal notions. So if we're going to have serious metaphysics, that we're going to find things out about the world, and we have to appeal to these notions in order and to think about possible worlds. Now, Leibniz, that's one of the first people to use the term possible worlds, and what he said was that there are infinitely many possible worlds. So, there's a world, like for instance, he gives the example here that Tony Blair is the Prime Minister of the UK. That is true. What I do want to think about is the need for modal logics. So both an empiricist orientation in metaphysics and technical considerations about exceptionality resulted in certain skepticism about the use of notions of necessity, possibility, and contingency. To be sure, many philosophers continue to believe that serious metaphysics requires appeal to modal notions. So if we're going to have serious metaphysics, that we're going to find things out about the world, and we have to appeal to these notions in order and to think about possible worlds. Now, Leibniz, that's one of the first people to use the term possible worlds, and what he said was that there are infinitely many possible worlds. So there's a world, like for instance, he gives the example here that Tony Blair is the Prime Minister of the UK. That is true in this world. Now there are infinitely many other possible worlds where this is also true and not true. So we have all of those different kinds of things, So this would kind of clear up the issue of modal notions, primarily because if it is difficult for something to be necessary or to be known epistemically to be necessary in a certain world, then a certain other possible world would be fine that way. It would all work. Logicians found that they could give clear sense to the notions of necessity and possibility as they function in the various modal logics by appropriating the Leibnizian idea that our world, the actual world, is just one of infinitely many possible worlds. The core idea was that just as propositions can be true or false in the actual world, they can have truth values in other possible worlds. Modal logicians claim that the idea that our propositions can have truth values in possible worlds provides the materials for explaining the application of modal concepts to propositions. To say that a proposition is true or actually true is just to say that it is true in a possible world that is the actual world. Okay, so we have that somewhat cleared up. Leibniz, this idea of a possible world was employed by many modal logicians. It's kind of cool to look at this and kind of think about, are these good notions to employ in metaphysics and epistemology? Because we have to figure out if we can empirically know if A is necessary or if A is possible. So, given Leibniz and people following him, there was a contemporary need for modal logics. contemporary need for that. So then, relatively recently we had an onslaught of different modal logics. We had, like I said, Clarence during Lewis. C.I. Lewis. Salt Kripke, others like that. The Kripke models of modal logic are, a big thing, and he did that when he was 17, I think. That guy's scary smart. That Kripke. What's funny about that is that my grandpa actually went to the same school as he did, because I live here in Omaha, and so did he. And he went to Omaha Central High School, and so did Kripke. So the elaboration of this account involved all sorts of technical details we can overlook, but one important feature of this neo-Leibnizian approach to modality was its ability to explain the plurality of modal logics. The problem with this onslaught of modal logics is that there's too many systems. Among the various modal logicians, there's a ton of systems. If you go to Dr. J. Campbell's channel, he has a playlist with 5 lectures in it. All one lecture, but it's 5 videos comprising one lecture. He, gives the first 5 axioms, and thus, the first couple of systems of modal logic. So, when we're talking about what is necessary possible, we're not talking merely about the way the world actually is. We're talking about the totality of possible worlds. Accordingly, it is no surprise that the empiricist was unable to identify subject matter for modal discourse merely by attending to the contents of our actual perceptual experience. So, honestly, that's really what is there. I mean, and then, it could be the empiricist, in various contemporary flavors could charge this. Well, how, we can't postulate a possible world because we can't empirically verify it. That's a big issue. So still, I think it's kind of difficult to, be sure that we're, be sure that we're justified in employing modal notions. We certainly have modal logics, which show how these modal notions are part of our metaphysics, epistemology, and general symbolic logics. But, it's still a question as to how, in logic it's fine, we can't have that. But, still the question remains, how is this justified? How is our use of these notions justified in our metaphysics and our epistemology? Oh, and I'll probably make another video which is about the actual metaphysics of possible worlds.